So the soon coming Canon R5 mirrorless full frame digital camera just had some new specs confirmed about it. And my friends, this camera is going to be crazy. It's probably one of the most anticipated cameras this year. And during a live kind of teleconference, press conference presentation, Canon just updated us on some of the specs that are coming to this camera. And so we're going to get right into those. We're going to talk about the new specs. We're going to talk about some theories, release dates, pricing, and everything else in this video. But hey, if you're new here, my name is Sean Cannell, and this is Think Media, where we bring you the best tips and tools for building your influence with online video. And we do a lot of tech gear tutorials and camera reviews on this channel, as well as news videos just like this one, especially about some of the crazy new cameras that are coming to market, just like this one. Now, we know that Canon has historically, especially over the last couple years, suffered quite a bit from being behind. That brands like Sony have been dropping, really great looking sensors, putting incredible features and lower cost bodies. That Canon hasn't had IBIS, In-Body Image Stabilization yet, and that's coming to this new camera. And so really the EOS R5 really seems to be Canon's letting the floodgates go. Like, it appears that everything is going to be in this camera. They've already announced some specs, but they just confirmed some things. And so we're talking about, as well as an incredible photography mirrorless camera, 8K video with 30 frames a second, 4K with 120 frames a second, making it crazy for slow motion, 10-bit that records in 8.265 and full autofocus in all of those modes, Canon's famous dual pixel autofocus. And so let me know if you've heard about this camera. Hit the like button if you are excited about the new Canon R5. And if you have any thoughts, if you're already thinking about picking this up, if this is the first time you're hearing about it, tell me in the comment section. But let's dive straight into the confirmed new news that they have talked about with this. First of all, you can shoot 8K raw internal video up to 30 frames a second. Now, what the heck do you need 8K for? I think what's crazy here is true. You're still good in a lot of cases on Think Media. We talk about you being good with just 1080p. 4K is definitely more of a standard. Over 50% of the TVs in the US now are sold in 4K. Most shows and movies are all produced in 4K. Obviously, any new Netflix show, it's going to be 4K. So that standard is coming more and more to, of course, video creators and even YouTubers. I do think, though, that one of the powerful things about 4K was the ability to shoot a wide shot and then crop in and out in 1080p without losing resolution. And we do this on video influencers interviews, a lot of like churches and different nonprofits or whoever that's doing production. By just having more resolution, even if your final project was 1080, you had a lot of flexibility there. With 8K, that allows you to do even more resolution and then crop into 4K if even 4K is your final output. Who needs 8K though? I don't know. You tell me. Do you already have a 4K camera, or how are you editing? Is 4K mainstream for you? Would you use 8K? Now, 8K internal recording up to 30 frames in 422 10-bit Canon Log in H.265 or 422 10-bit HDR PQ. And so what does this mean? Well, this is some crazy specs that's more relevant for filmmakers, more relevant for people that want to color grade. And so this is going to be a powerhouse for anybody doing video production. Is this overkill for a lot of people creating YouTube videos? Probably. And the price tag is going to probably be pretty intense as well. And so, but you definitely have that full on, this is the kind of specs that I'm shooting right now in a GH5 kind of gives you. That gives you more of that. People that want to make short films. Of course, a lot of people that want to do crazy color grading, more like short films. I know a lot of like churches want to make really artistic, rich, type of videos. So that's relevant for that. And then 4K internal recording up to 120 frames a second in 422 10-bit Canon Log. As well. And again, H.265. Now that's kind of interesting. I don't know. Are you editing in H.265 right now? Right now, most of the standard is H.264. And so that's becoming more mainstream. It's kind of a more efficient codec compression as far as that goes. And I think that's what allows some of the larger frame rates as well as resolution sizes. This is crazy because you could finally get that buttery smooth 4x slow motion or higher, depending on your final project, in 4K. And so if you just want to have the crispiest, most beautiful, unbelievable, quality in 4K, you can shoot that slow motion. That's going to be there as well. They just confirmed this on a live stream coming direct from Canon. Next is 4K external recording is also available up to 60 frames, of course. All right. Now here's what's crazy, friends. No crop in 8K and 4K video capture using the full width of the sensor. This is a big one because people are like, okay, wow, 8K, but if it's like the Canon M50 or even the Canon EOS R, different cameras, yeah, I switched into 4K mode and the freaking frame zooms in like 3-4x, and I don't have that full sensor readout. And so if you're new to cameras, what this means is a couple things. Again, when you hit record, if you hit record on your camera and all of a sudden like the frame gets smaller, most cameras have some level of crop where in video mode, you're like, oh, look at that beautiful frame. You hit it and then it crops in, it crops down. And then how aggressive that crop is typically an issue. That's one aspect of this. And then we'll have to figure this out. But when it says full width of the sensor, there's this other term called full sensor readout. It's like, does the camera even use the whole sensor? Or that's what's called pixel binning or like line skippy stuff, where just because a camera is 4K, it doesn't even mean that it's really 4K. It could be like 1080 up processed and look like garbage. So essentially what we're hoping here is you have no crop on the sensor and it's using the full sensor. This makes me feel like when we're looking at the M6, which is one of the our favorite cameras right now, M6 Mark II, there's no crop in 4K and the 4K is actually quality. Just because it's like a higher resolution, you could just blow up crap, and what good is that? So it sounds like this confirmation is huge. We're super excited about that. Dual pixel autofocus in all 8K and 4K recording modes. Hit the like button, somebody, if you're grateful. That's crazy. So you're going to have Canon's autofocus again on the M50. It crops in at 4K and you lose dual pixel autofocus and it goes to a contrast base. So it's much slower and doesn't necessarily grab, focus as fast. So that's outrageous. Like, that's some serious horsepower they've put in the camera. Canon Log available in 8K and 4K in internal recording modes. Again, this is your ability to shoot like flat if you want to do color grading and, kind of maybe boost your dynamic range. Basically just, who knows if this camera will be approved for like Netflix video production, but I imagine it might be able to. And so those that want to make, films, you're shooting high-end wedding videos, you really want to get crazy, that's an option. Next is a Canon first. The EOS R5 will feature 5-axis in-body image stabilization, which works in conjunction with optical image stabilization equipped with many of the RF and EF lenses. So big issue when you're wanting to run and gun and shoot B-roll or even vlog with a camera is that shake and is lens jitter. You want to have optical image stabilization on your lens. In some cameras, like the M6 or the M50, you have electronic image stabilization, which is all right, but that crops in a little bit and it can kind of warp the image. What we're talking about here is what Sony has had, which has been a game changer on like the A7 III. Is one of our favorite cameras that we shoot a lot of Think Media videos on, about a $2,000 just for the body camera. But the IBIS, the in-body image stabilization, makes it super smooth, it makes it really great for B-roll. We'll shoot our events with it. We'll create, vlogumentary type of content with a camera like that. Canon's been behind on the IBIS, and so that is fully here. And to work in conjunction with optical, meaning any lenses, the new RFs, as well as the old EF lenses, if they have optical image stabilization, those two are going to work together to make it even smoother. The Panasonic GH5 has been really good at this. If you have the optical, it has IBIS, and then the lenses have also optical image stabilization, and together, people have, like, run and gun filmmakers have been like, man, this can be so buttery smooth, even if you zoom in a little bit and you get rid of that lens jitter and whatnot. This is one of the question marks on the camera. This is Canon's first foray into it. I don't think they're going to, put out a bad product, but we don't know. This is their first, time doing IBIS. And so that is confirmed. And then dual card slots, one CF card. Those are the larger square type cards, as well as the SD UHS 2 cards, which are faster. Kind of interesting that you're getting two different cards there. I think the speeds on those cards might have to do with if you're recording internal in 8K or 4K 120, maybe you're definitely going to need SD cards that are tip-top shape, or CF cards with fast read, write speeds, etc., to be able to capture all of that footage at a really high level. And so let me know what you think about the R5. I've got a couple other things to read as far as the photography goes. Hit like if you're excited for this camera. Here's what we don't know. We don't know when the camera's coming out, and we don't know how much it's going to be priced. My guess is it seems like it would probably be priced around maybe the 5D mark, for when that came out. We're probably looking at, $3,000, $3,500. So is this camera overkill for a lot of what we talk about here at Think Media, which is like press record, grab a camera and go create some content? Yes. I think that there's going to be plenty of other cameras you're fine with. Do you need 8K? Do you need these features? However, if you're a freelancer, pro photographer, pro videographer, I think leaning fully into Canon's, mirrorless line, this camera is very exciting. I cannot wait to get my hands on one. Essentially, too, a couple things we don't know. We don't know how many megapixels the sensor itself is going to be. People are guessing 45 megapixels. And it's a brand new sensor, brand new processor. Processor speaks to how efficient it is, how it can handle, of course, the 4K and the 8K. Up to 12 frames per second on a mechanical shutter and 20 frames on silent shutter. That's going to be your photography. So Canon just released the new 1DX, and this is really, as a DSLR, this is a huge competitor for that, even in their own ecosystem. And what's cool here is, again, as Canon has been talking about over the years, or as people have been commentating, that Canon cripples a lot of their cameras. They hold back features. They seem to kind of protect their line and reserve just the pro features for higher end cameras. That does not appear to be the case here at all. Again, dual pixel autofocus. And so there's going to be, again, the new processor, the new sensor we're seeing here, up to 20 frames a second. And then also new autofocus, animal eye focus, animal tracking that can face, head, and eye tracking when people is set, and even on animals, including like birds. So you're like a wildlife photographer. You've got 20 frames a second on this sick camera with massive megapixels. And Canon's best-in-class glass and lenses, and you'll be able to track whole body, face, eyes of cats, dogs, and birds for speed and precision, and then of course 8K. And so let me know what you think about the R5, and hit the like button if you got value out of this video. When's it coming out? Now, it's been interesting is because of this global pandemic, they have mentioned that there has been delays, factories have been shut down. And what it seems like is that these actually might be limited. Like there might be limited numbers shipping. It could be as early as May, June, even July. The R6 is an even higher camera that details are rolling out about. This is one I think to for sure get in line for, especially if you are a creator by vocation of really high-end content. But it is absolutely coming out this year, appears to be the details, and we're seeing more and more information be released about it. On the press conference today, they also announced, Drew was on there dropping some facts about the camera, and he said there's more details to be released and announced still, plus there's more lenses coming to Canon's commitment to their R lineup of lenses. And so it seems like Canon is all in, man, ready to go head to head in the ring with any other competitor in the industry. This is a major camera that I'm super excited about, and them confirming some of these details is really awesome. I think the other things to consider is, again, it's going to be sick for photography. You do have the flippy screen that is Canon is known for, that we wish everybody would have, that articulating to the side screen so you don't have to modify it. You could still put your shotgun mic on the top and whatever else you want to do. As far as the dials and the thumb functionality and whatnot, it would appear even the grip. You know, I've been shooting with my 6D Mark II, and there's been something about going out with my wife Sonia, doing photography, about the form factor of kind of that DSLR, that build, Canon's menus, Canon's ecosystem. It just grabs autofocus amazingly. Full frame pictures from that older full frame camera are amazing. And so when I look at this body, I get a little hot. I got to tell you, it kind of gets me a little bit steamed up, man. Don't tell Sonia that, but I'm pretty fired up about this thing. It looks like if all the specs turn out as they're saying, that we are in for a treat. And so let me know what you think about the new camera in the comments. And remember this, Sean, you know, is this the camera I need to start my YouTube channel or to start creating content? By no means. I don't think that's the case. I think that we still would recommend things like the M50, starting with your phone. I do think, though, that a lot of people maybe you've got a business, you're pumping out a ton of content, you want a real workhorse. We'll have to see if there's any issues with overheating or anything like that once it comes out. But this very well could be the new camera. Charles said the 8K R5 has no 30-minute limit. We're gonna have to see what the limits are. You know, they have not confirmed how long it can record like 8K internal. Sometimes on the G7X Mark III, it's like 10 minutes of 4K recording, even though it was uncropped and it had an overheating issue. So we'll have to see if it has even unlimited, even at 1080. You know, the reason cameras stop recording at 30 minutes is oftentimes not because they can't not go longer. It's because they save money on taxes, because especially internationally, when a camera, if it is a DSLR or mirrorless camera and it can record longer than 30 minutes, it gets taxed as a video camera. And so GH5s, some of the Sonys have been willing to pay that tax to give you the benefit feature of unlimited record times on a 6400 or 6600 cameras like that. They might have a 30-minute record limit even on a 1080. We don't know. And that wouldn't be because it couldn't handle it, right? It'd be because it's sort of crippled, but it's technically not a video camera. Now, I hope that it has that unlimited record limit. That's a really good question that we'll have to figure out. We don't know things like headphone jack and mic jack, although I'm sure it would have both. And we'll have to see. Let me see if there's any other questions coming in about this one. And you know, I think that it's going to be pretty all time, of course, for those filming, you know, films and even creating YouTube videos. Typically, you can really use it for lots of clips. Maybe you can turn it to not shut off and go live off of it as well. Like I'm going live off the GH5, which doesn't have a record limit. George, cost is undetermined, but I'm guessing probably $3,500, $3,000 when it comes out. I mean, it's an absolute kind of flagship camera, although it's not as crazy as like $5,000 or $6,000 for the 1DX3, right? Why not start with this camera? Sure, I think you could start with this camera. I just don't think you should ever feel limited by your gear. It's all about the content, not about the camera, and you can always scale up and invest as you go. But it's going to be a powerhouse. And I think there's something about investing in this for the future, because Canon is committed to mirrorless. It's committed to the, there are lenses of lines. One good news is that because of the EOS RP and the EOS R, this is not their first, you know, mirrorless camera. So they've put a few things out. It seems like this is their first, like, plant the flag. We're pumped about it at Think Media and super excited for that. And Charles says Canon mentioned clearly that the R5 will be under 4,000, which is pretty crazy for how you know, amazing that is. Nolan's wondering if the dynamic range will be improved. We'll have to see a brand new sensor. Hopefully that'll be amazing. And remember, y'all, that again, you don't have to live on the bleeding edge of technology. Like, you don't need to be making 8K videos, right? That a lot of people a lot of professionals, freelancers, videographers will upgrade to this. What does that mean? That means they'll flip their gear. They'll sell their gear. And so I think it's always an opportunity to think about when 8K TVs, one of the reasons they announced this is because of this pandemic. NAB did not happen, which we typically cover here at Think Media in Vegas. And so they did it online. And when you go to these new shows, you see the bleeding edge of technology. When I go to CES, you see all these 8K TVs. Well, there's not a lot of 8K content yet. So this is definitely a camera that's pushing towards the bleeding edge of technology, which means, though, that a lot of us can level up and maybe jump from 1080 to 4K, right? And it might push down some of the other things as well. And so hit like if you got value out of this video. And then remember that we're here to help you with the best tips and tools for creators. And that you can do so much with just your smartphone. You could do so much with just a Canon M50. In fact, if you haven't seen it, we just put out a brand new video comparing the Canon M50 and the Canon M6. When it comes to all around best cameras for YouTube this year, this is really two of our top picks. So click or tap the YouTube card if you want to watch that video and you haven't seen it yet. And I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for checking out this one. Peace.